Pat Precourt has a great pre-foreclosure business going on in Connecticut, and also takes time to teach and train others who also want to get involved in the pre-foreclosure market. Pat and his partner Bob LaChance also were the first two investors who invested in realestateinvestor.com. We wanted to get a little bit of their business philosophy and how exactly they've created such a great pre-foreclosure business.
What made you decide, out of all the options of real estate that are out there, why did you choose the pre-foreclosure market?
Well, this goes back a ways now. This goes all the way back to 2000, 2001. I was on the heels of doing some unsuccessful rehab projects and then going on kind of searching out as much education as I could find and finally finding a niche that I could excel in the pre-foreclosure, especially 4 or 5 years ago. It was a much smaller industry. It really wasn't competing with anybody. And for the most part, I still don't compete with anybody now. But it's kind of it's a industry and niche that I knew that we could really put a lot of time and energy in becoming excellent at, and the barriers of entry would always be tall for others to get involved with. So it would kind of leave us on our own pedestal. That was the attraction to it. It seemed limitless as far as our possibilities coming out of it as well.
Excellent. And with all these folks that are coming in out of seminars, they come out, they spend a couple $1,000s, they get a couple marketing materials, they start doing it. How do you really separate yourself from the mass amount of people, the 40, 50, 60 letters and postcards that people are getting? Why are people still calling you, and why are you still having?
Why do the clients pick and choose us? Over
out of all the other people that are out there, all the options that are out there. It's
outstanding question, because when you get a mailbox full of multiple pieces of mail, it's very difficult to differentiate yourself from one another. And no matter how good we are back here in the office, they won't know that until they meet us. Once we have people through our doors, our client retention is outstanding, but we still got to get them through the door. So that's a great question. What we typically do is try not to compete with those. We look at different time triggers in the process. Here in Connecticut, we're a judicial state, so we kind of leverage certain time triggers to our advantage. Most investors, being lazy as they are, will look for the initial announcement of a list pendants in Connecticut. They'll use that one and only time trigger to market these individuals as people that are in need of being helped, and they won't follow up on them after that. And although we'll compete with that on a low level, in that we'll make an attempt to market them, we go out of our way to make sure we are first in that mailbox. We don't rely on any commercially produced lists. We create our own lists, and it takes a lot of time and money to do it. But that little attention to detail does get us in that mailbox first. But after that, we'll wait till later on in the judicial process to retarget these same people. And all the lazy investors have since long forgot about them. So we're not competing with anybody at that point.
Excellent. And with all the people out there that are trying to do this business, and there's so much money to be made in this business if you do it right, why do so many people get involved in pre-foreclosure and quit?
Why do two-part question. Why do they get involved? Because they're sold on the glamour side of it about all the money they can make. And
yes.
Why do they quit? Because it's not easy. It's a simple business. You don't have to be a brain surgeon. You don't have to be brilliant to do this business. But it's hard. It's a lot of work. And I don't know why anybody would expect a lot of money without a lot of work. I don't know what makes them entitled to get that. But I think it's a false expectations up front. And when those expectations aren't met, it's an immediate failure. Because they haven't prepared for any failures, it knocks them out of the game. And my idea of how we evaluate going into something new. We do the same process every time, and I don't think enough people ask themselves the same 3 key questions when they take on a new project: what it is they want out of it, what they're willing to give up, and how quickly they want it. And the second one is probably the biggest part: what are they willing to give up to get what it is they want? If they haven't asked them that question, they haven't kind of prioritized how they spend their time. As soon as the going gets rough, or they meet these little failures, which are, one hand failures, but really they're required steps to succeed. So they're not failures; they're another completed step in the process. But the point being, when they meet these, they don't have any kind of plan to go by, so they perceive them as failures, and they quit.
All right, we have Bob LaChance here. He is one of the partners of North Shore Enterprises, one of the top short sale companies in the entire New England area. And Bob, you deal with a little bit of the front end activities. You deal with after the deal, the lead actually comes in. You decide what makes it a deal, and what is an ideal, what is a criteria that you look for of someone that you can be able to work with?
Well, anyone who calls in, my job is to figure out, first and foremost, how we're going to make money off that lead. Because we pay a lot of money to get that lead to call this office. So, first and foremost, that's the most important thing. A lot of different criteria. First off, we have to figure out, we have a seller script here that says basically, what are you interested in doing? Selling, refinancing, keeping. Keeping and refinancing are obviously the same thing. But if they say keeping, I run them quickly through what their loan to value is. I ask them what the debt is on the house, and then I ask them how much the property's worth. In the meantime, while I'm talking, I go onto SiteX data, and I figure out what's selling quickly in the neighborhood. And I also go onto my local MLS, and I cross-reference what's sold on the street. So I pretty much figure out if they could refinance right then and there. And typically, there's a lot of subprime lenders that'll do it, but it has to be probably around 75% loan to value or better to get them refinanced. So I just cut right to the chase. I say, look, you can't refinance because, and I give them the whole rundown of loan to value and all that kind of stuff, and I scrub it right away, and I say, look, if anyone else is telling you they can refinance, they're probably not being straight, and you're going to waste a lot of time and energy. And at that point, typically they already say to me, I've already got denied about 3 times. That's just a standard answer there. Then when we go to keeping, typically I scrub. Pat and I, we call it scrubbing a list. I ask them how much they make, what their expenses are, and by the end, if there's more going out than coming in, I say, look, there's only one other option. Either there are 2 other options. You got to sell, you got to come up with the arrearage, and still they can't make the payment. And I explain it to them that they still have more coming out, going out than coming in. Okay. Then I say, look, you either sell or you got to think about filing bankruptcy, and they still have to qualify for that. But that's one thing I still have to let them know that is an option. So at that point, I figure out which category they're in and how we move forward and position them where we're either going to help them do a loan modification or forbearance, and or help them refer them to a real estate agent, which we obviously make some money on in the end, obviously, because we control it a little bit, and or we buy the property. There's obviously we can make money in each different sliver of it. Our idea is not looking to get the whole kit and caboodle. What we do here is we do a lot of volume. So we have to figure out how we're gonna make our money, and then we're gonna move on. If it's a lost cause where they say, listen, I'm gonna do anything to keep this property, and we'll say, okay, no big deal. I do have a list of bankruptcy attorneys. Would you like them? And then we leave it at that. But that's pretty much my job, to figure out how we're making money off every single lead that we spend a lot of money on. That's about it.
If you are a brand new investor, you have limited amount of money, you have limited credit, limited resources, limited cash, what would be your first steps if you wanted to get involved in the pre-foreclosure market today, not 2-3 years ago, but today in this competitive market? What would you do to be able to have the highest level of success?
Highest level of success the fastest?
Yeah.
I'd make 2 commitments. One, that I would get educated by the best professionals that I could find out there to educate me. Number 2, I would immediately go to a professional expert that's got a proven track record in my backyard and do anything to work side by side with them. Which means, maybe I wouldn't be getting all the money, but I would be getting the hands-on education. And I would certainly trade up my time in exchange for that knowledge.
Got it. And with all the people that are doing it out there and the people that do have a system down, how valuable do you see joint venturing and being able to do a portion of the job, get very good at that, but let others be able and delegate that out to other individuals?
In this particular niche of investment pre-foreclosure, it's probably more important than probably most other businesses are related to investment. We have our front end, our acquisition side of the business. We have our middle end, which is the debt negotiating. And we have our tail end, the liquidation. The tail end and the front end are sales type individuals, personalities, extrovert style people. Okay, the middle end is the exact opposite of that. It's the introvert. It's the guy who's has no problem sitting at a desk all day long. He's very detailed. His follow up is just fanatical. He's very tenacious at what he does. So they require 2 extremes in your personality. And for that reason exclusively, it's very significant that you pick the part you're best at, and the part that you're best at, which is natural to you, is the part that you will become the best at overall. Okay, if you're not good at it, you won't love it. If you don't love it, you won't become the best at it. You follow me on that?
I follow you.
You'll only be average, even if you grind through. And I've ground through different parts of this business and only become good at it because I couldn't stand doing it, such as loss mitigation.
Got it.
Right?
So you're bringing in the business. Someone starts out. They're going and getting the deed packages. They bring it to someone that's going to be doing the loss mitigation. How does someone that doesn't have the skills to really be able to look at the day-to-day, the tenacious, the phone calls, how do you keep the people that you're giving the deals to accountable that they're doing their job?
So if you're the investor, you're going to hand off a part of your business to a third party to do it. How do you hold them accountable for it?
Yes.
Well, that's another very good question, because on the heels of what I just told you about farming it out, it's real important, okay, that you learn it yourself. Now, if you're early on in the process, you're gonna join up with somebody who's doing it, and you're gonna have to monitor it the best you can. But it's very important you know the business, all aspects of it, even if you're not going to be doing it. If you're going to manage it or oversee any part of the business, you still have to know it. And that goes back to getting properly educated and then grinding through and making your own mistakes and learning, having a little track record of your own. Okay? If you're just starting out, you do whatever you can do to get the money rolling. Then you can go back and re-educate yourself in the things that you're not educated on going forward. But the bottom line is you cannot oversee it or make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do unless you know what to do yourself.
What do you see the future of pre-foreclosure and short sales in the nation, and I guess more importantly, in your own backyard in Connecticut and New England?
The future, I think, and it's pretty clear, even though we don't have the crystal ball, but there's been a path that's been following that. The banks are getting more aggressive at accepting short sales. However, at the exact same time, they're making you jump through more hoops, in that there's been so many new investors in the business in the past 2, 3, 4, 5 years. There's going to be so many more new investors in the years going forward. The banks are overburdened with all the applications, and quite frankly, they're fed up with dealing with non-professional real estate investors. They're sick of the jokers. They want people who can, they're going to say what they're going to do, and then they do what they execute. So they're going to make it harder and harder. The barriers of entry into this industry are going to get higher and higher. You're going to have to be, more perfect at what you do. But for those who are willing to put the time, the energy, the money, the education, and the commitment to be the best at it, they will succeed. It'll be very fruitful at the end. The path we're taking is more and more foreclosures, so that it's not going to be a lack of business. Our wholesale side of the business, which is mostly what we talk about in this business, our target for 2007 is somewhere between $1.3 and $1.5 million of our net profits. And I'm not talking about...
Not gross. We're talking about net, after expenses.
That's our take-home money that we can reinvest in our company and take out what we need. These aren't made-up numbers. These aren't boot camp guru numbers. That's the money that we count on. Okay? That means we're going to have to close one wholesale deal every single week consistently, which I know a lot of people out there brag about, saying how many deals they close and all that other goodness, but the reality is very few people in this country close one short sale wholesale deal a week. And those who say that, very few would be able to prove it. We've been on that pace before. We've never gotten through a whole year at that level, but that's our goal for 2007. Wholesale short sales is what we're all accustomed to. It's a house that we're going to invest in, we're going to buy, we're going to discount, we're going to turn around, whether it be flip or simultaneous closing. We're going to make a pretty good check. Our checks, our typical average is about $25,000 to $27,000. That's our wholesale deal. A retail short sale is kind of a different part of the business, where the house is going to remain listed with a real estate agent. We're going to do the loss mitigation, the debt negotiating for them, and we'll get paid a service fee for doing that transaction. Usually 1.5% of the transaction. So on a $300,000 house, it's $4,000 to $4,500. Much smaller check, but those are they're much easier to do. They take very little time. We get them very, very often. So we love those, and that'll make up a good portion of our income as well.